Jo. So, da sind wir wieder und ja, fast läuft. Sollte alles wieder zu sehen sein. Genau, und Toto ist auch da.
Jo, im Moment habe ich noch.
Jo, alles gut. Und ansonsten schauen wir einfach mal weiter, was da noch kommt. Ich gucke auch gerade, wie die Lautstärke jetzt gerade passt. Muss ich, da. Ich glaube, da fehlt der Sound vom Ding. Da fehlt der Sound
Vom Video, ja.
vom Video. Okay. Äh, Da muss ich mal gucken, warum der nicht da ist.
autonomous and when you go down to atmosphere. You know, your MFDs, if
Jetzt,
you're in
da
SEO,
haben wir ihn
what
doch.
do you really care about? Well, you care about your health, your weapons, your target's health,
Mhm.
how they're doing. But as a default experience, we're only giving you the information that is needed to you at that point in time. And what we actually
Ups,
saw is that you're
das war
flying
das
around.
Falsche.
We've got other
So,
space
jetzt.
environments. I want to be able to look at them. I don't want to
You want to
look.
see the ship that
Yeah.
you're fighting. You want to see the environment you're flying around it. I mean, one of the big things that we're the big initiative on the vehicle side for Squadron is the sort of complete redo of
Oh, jetzt müsste Sound da
the
sein
HUD
und ihr alles wieder
and the
hören.
MFD systems and basically the display where we're first of all we have to refactor it to
Jo,
move
Sound
away
ist
from
aus.
some of the old flash that's been around
Right.
forever, which is what the MFD displays.
Ja, also langsam. Ich denke mal, die werden hier noch eine ganze
On
Weile
the HUD,
sich das
we
Ganze
sort
so
of took a look at
hinquatschen.
where we were going and felt
Das
like,
würde ich auch sagen
like
und
Rich
ich
said, it's
denke auch,
just
dass wirklich
too much stuff's there all the
eigentlich
time. Well, we
groß
want
wird
to
wahrscheinlich
be
nichts
more
mehr kommen,
contextual.
weil also,
So, yeah, and we're doing this in a overall holistic
aber man weiß ja
way
nie,
that
ob
would be
dann
probably almost
die
impossible if we
letzten
were trying to
Sekunden noch
fit
in
it
den
into
Burner
quarterly
kommen. Aber
releases
ich muss sagen,
in the
im
PU.
Gegensatz zu
So,
Caro bin
you know,
ich
most of the
nicht
vehicle
so
team is
dieser
working on this
Englisch-Schnellübersetzer.
as a sort of group.
Da
You know, in
kann ich
the
euch
need for
direkt dann
multiple speeds that we saw
leider
earlier. You
nicht
sort
immer
of
instant
saw some
übersetzen.
aspects of it, which is the
Mhm.
different
Nee, da komme ich
modes
auch nicht
you
mit.
can
Habe
be
ich
in
da halt?
depending
Warum
on
gibt es
what you're
keinen
trying to
Warbau
do.
und Upgrade? Achso, das
But
Upgrade. Nee.
you know, a lot
Ich
of
hatte,
that's
glaube ich,
also
auch nur
reflected
den
on
Kauf
the HUD and the
gefunden.
information of what you're targeting and whether you can, you know, whether you want to be able to
Also ich habe mir
cast up,
jetzt alle
say,
3
your
geholt, aber als
target
Upgrade.
status or your ship
Und
status to your
ja,
visor. Now that won't be the case
die
for
lege ich mir mal
everything.
hin
Every
und
suit, like
fertig.
for
Dann
instance,
hat
if you
man sie
have a
mal.
more
Ich glaube, ich habe das
combat-oriented
von der
ship
Titan.
or suit that you
Habe
would
ich
wear
die
in, you know,
C1 habe ich von der
you know, I
Titan
don't
genommen
know,
und die anderen habe ich,
Gladius
glaube ich,
or
von der
a Hornet.
Vulture
You've got the
genommen.
appropriate
Die
equipment
Vulture
and you should be
behalte,
able to
weiß ich
cast.
nicht.
If you're just
Weil
flying
wenn ich das
an old
Savage
rust bucket
möchte,
like an
dann
Aurora,
wahrscheinlich
the
eher
Drake ship we
wie
saw
mit
the
der
other day,
Reclaimer.
when
Und
we
das
were
kommt
looking
ja
at
erst
this thing,
später in
all the
dem
HUD
Sinne,
was on
weil
there. I was
das
like, well,
LTV möchte ich auf jeden
it's
Fall
kind of the
noch haben.
equivalent of a lorry.
Finde ich nur
Oh
geil.
yeah, no, it's a
Aber
Caterpillar.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
wie
yeah,
wir ja
but
wissen,
you
können wir
wouldn't
die ja
have the
nur über L
Caterpillar.
lassen, bevor du mit der
You know, you wouldn't
gestartet bist.
cast
Ist
it
das
up to
Spiel
your
um.
visor like you would as a fighter pilot. It would be sitting down on
Firefox,
the,
genau.
on the
Also
MFDs.
wenn du im
But
November
in the
hier
cases
bist, in
that you
Heidelberg,
have
immer
the
gerne.
ability
Kurz
to
melden,
cast
dann
it and do
kommst du
stuff,
auf jeden Fall
in all the
vorbei.
ships are also building in the ability, like there's a not just a game config screen in your ship. You go in, you have your like settings screen, and the
So, genau.
settings will
Und
be remembered on a
wir
per
haben
ship
doch
basis.
noch ein
And you
Giveaway
can set up,
übrig.
you know, okay, I
Also
want this display to be
dementsprechend
this, or this
haut
display this. I want this to cast here, and so, so
äh,
it's all been built about building
Hashtag
blocks and being
CitizenCon rein und dann
in a
gibt's
very
noch
sort of
was.
top-down,
Wobei
one
ich absolut
system,
keine Ahnung habe,
clean
was es ist,
approach.
weil das
So
wird
we're
ja
pretty excited about that. We're not ready to
Zufall
show it
ausgelost und
yet
das
because we're
weiß dann
still in
Caro
the
später.
sort of you know, we
Foundational stage.
yeah
anyway.
there's
Aber wie
it's
gesagt,
a little further
es wird
before
auf
it's
jeden
all
Fall noch
fully
ausgelost.
polished or ready to show, but it's going to be, I
Und
think, a
was es
pretty
dann ist, das
sea change in terms
erfährt dann
of
der glückliche
how it
Gewinner.
feels as you're flying around. Besides
Mauricio
different
sagt schon, ein Game Case noch
modes
übrig. Also dann
you know, combat
habt's
and
gehört.
traversal and
Also
all
wie
the rest of
gesagt,
the
es
stuff.
ist noch ein
It's
Game
how
Key
you get the
übrig und
information
dementsprechend
and how it's relayed
schauen
to
wir
you
mal, wie es
is
das
going
noch
to be
aussieht dann.
much more contextual, much better. And
And
Der
it's huge in
Minecraft
combat.
Game
Yeah.
Key
It's
ist
huge
noch
in combat
da.
because in
Ups,
combat
jetzt habe
right
ich es
now you're
verraten.
either, you know, we're obviously trying to bring the combat closer,
Genau.
which is obviously what Yogi and the guys and Dave talked about in their talk. But you don't want to have a little clutter on there, and
Das ist
you want
wirklich,
to have that
also
spatial awareness
schwätze
of, okay,
ist
who's
halt
my target?
extrem
And the other
lang.
aspect is
Kann
that
man echt
on
nichts
that
dagegen
level of,
sagen.
you know, again, a holistic approach is your
Ich
player
meine,
Dann, Dankeschön.
information is only on there if it's relevant. And
Jo,
also the
ich
targeting
finde es
we've talked
okay,
about
dass
redoing in
dass sie
terms
sich
of right
Zeit
now,
nehmen,
if you
in
go
dem
into
Sinne darüber
PvE
zu
or
reden,
when you
ob
play
das jetzt die
Squadron,
Leute
with 100
wissen
players
wollen,
in
yeah,
the
you just
weiß
get
ich
100
nicht.
player battle
billions
area.
of
Aber
markers and it's like
Ja,
alle
it's just
erwarten
massive
irgendwas
information
Besonderes,
overload.
aber ich denke
You know,
mal,
some
And
players,
it was
das
definitely a
Boom,
problem in
den
Squadron.
Boom-Effekt
Yeah,
haben sie entweder kommen wir
absolutely.
ganz zum Schluss oder sie haben wirklich nicht weiter.
Areas of the
Ja,
game
ich,
where there's massive amounts
also
of ships.
momentan
yeah,
muss ich
and you
auch
know, some players can
sagen,
deal with it, but
zweifle
you
ich,
know,
dass
it's just
dieser
so much information.
Ding
It's
noch
just
kommt,
it's
weil
unnecessary. So what we've
das
done
habe
is
es
that we've
jetzt
again
zu
we want
lang
to strip back the targeting
ausgereizt.
so that
Man
again you're
merkt,
only
das sind
targeting
schon
the things that are important to
gefühlsmäßig
you. So
laut
you know
Anzeige allein
we're
schon
relying less
fast
on all these
3000
markers. And we
Leute
want to
weniger
put more of a
da,
focus on your
wie noch vor einer
radar
Stunde
in the
und
cockpit
ja,
because you have a radar in the cockpit. You know, fighter
deswegen.
pilots in real life have a radar. They don't have in-world AR markers. Oh,
Ja,
there's 20 guys.
andererseits,
You know. But we want to
andererseits
make
ist es
sure
vielleicht
that
auch gar nicht so
you've got
schlimm,
the
dass sie
information that
jetzt
you
nichts
need,
weiter
but also we
zeigen,
want to
weil sie sich
basically
mehr
make
oder
sure that
weniger
you're
darauf
using the tools that we
konzentrieren,
provide.
Sachen fertig zu
Because
bekommen, anstatt
what's
sie
happening
irgendwelche
right now
schönen
is that everybody's just
Präsentationen
relying on
machen,
HUD.
weißt du?
Ja
Sowas in der
gut,
HUD has
Richtung.
everything
hieß
on
es
there.
ja,
But you've got
hieß es
MFDs.
ja,
You've
sie
got a
wollen
cockpit
das,
radar. You know, we want to,
die
they're
Arbeit
there for a reason.
konzentriere und nicht
So
irgendwelche
what's happened
unnötige
over the
Sachen noch
years is
dazu
that
mache.
we've redone them at separate
Also,
times, and you know the MFDs are still in Flash, and they've done the building
ich bin
blocks.
mal gespannt
So we've
auf
kind of got
nächsten
into this
Monat.
cycle of trying to, oh no, this is it, this is where the player should be. And what we want to
Aber
do is
Ende,
we
Ende
go
November
back
war
to
das
kind
doch,
of
ne?
what
Geht doch
Chris
immer
did
im
originally.
Dezember
In
rein, die
terms of, well,
Messe.
Genau,
there's an
Ende November
in-cockpit
so.
radar.
Ja, da bin ich
You
auch
should use
gespannt.
that.
Ich
There's
denke, da
in-cockpit
wird
MFDs. You should use those.
dann
Okay.
auch noch
Now, I mean,
möglicherweise
there's specific combat
von
mode.
den
Okay, they're
Konzeptsachen, was
cast, so
da
I can
jetzt
see that information.
präsentiert worden
But
ist,
the radar
möglicherweise
doesn't
sogar
become
schon was fertig
redundant.
sei.
That should be what the
Ja.
noise is on. That's where the
Also ich habe
audio
mir auch
should be.
mal,
Okay,
ich
I
habe
should
mir
be
mehr
able to
oder
go in
weniger
there
auch
and
mal so ein bisschen
select
einen Plan
targets.
gelegt. Also
That
ich bin ja
information
sowieso
should be
wenig
cleanly delivered
dabei
to me.
bei Star
But out in the
Citizen,
world,
aber
I want to
dass ich
look
doch
what's
von
there.
kleinen
I want to
Schiffen,
look at my target. I want to look
so wie
oh,
was,
there's
ne,
space
so wie du es
there,
auch
there's
gesagt hast,
AI
also
coming
mit
in.
kleinen
Okay.
Schiffen
We
gucke,
want
was
to have
da so
less
geht, weil die
reliance
großen
on
Pötte,
just
bis die
AR
mal kommen,
markers
genau wie
for
die,
everything and only
die
reliance on
Merchantmen, selbst wenn die
marketing
kommt,
things that are
was
important
soll
to
ich
you or
damit?
you
Also ich
directly
alleine,
mark yourself.
ne?
And I
Selbst
think
wir beide oder mit
you fight
Caro,
combat experiences
ja,
where you're
dann
fighting
brauchen wir wahrscheinlich noch
15,
30 Mann
20
mehr.
ships,
Also,
it's
weiß
just
ich
a
nicht,
lot.
aber wie viel
It's a
man
lot more
dafür im
fun. You're
Endeffekt
not
von den
having
anderen
to
Sachen
deal
dann
with all the
bekommt,
extra
die einen
noise. You
vielleicht
can
mehr
just
interessieren.
focus on being the best
Das
pilot
ist
you can
dann,
be.
ne?
I think it's really important.
And I would say that definitely, you know, we're
Aber
putting a bunch of work in to the
Okay, weil
radar,
Köhler
which is
schreibt gerade,
really
die A1 hat
radar
0
slash star map.
SCU,
So
weil,
like
wie
what
gesagt,
you've never
im
had in the PU. The
Site
original
steht
design
irgendwie,
was
dass sie alle
that
gleich haben.
that radar that
Ah,
you would see
mit
would
Plätschstar
also
steht's,
scale
alles
up,
klar.
or you would scale out basically.
Dann sind das wahrscheinlich auf der Seite noch irgendwie falsche Aussagen.
And what happened when we were
Gut, ja, hab
first
ich mir eigentlich auch schon gedacht,
PU,
weil
PU, we're like we didn't get that working yet, so we just said, well, we'll
die
use your
E1
Moby-Glass
dürfte
version,
wahrscheinlich auch
and we're still
gar
using
nicht
the
so
Moby-Glass
viel,
version all
genau.
these years
Ist
later,
der
and
E1
it's still mostly the code that we've done all those years ago. And that's when I
Toni
mentioned at the top
Azuki,
of
danke für dein
our
Follow,
talk that,
schön, dass du
you know,
da
the
bist.
star map. Well, the star map's really star map and radar.
Ja
'cause
gut,
you
dann
can
passt es
zoom
ja
in
aber
and zoom
dann, wenn
out,
die
and you can zoom
beiden
all the way to the
SCU
radar
haben wir
level
klar.
or zoom all the way
Eins
out to
als
the
Taxi,
star map. And
als
we've
eins
put a huge
Bomber
amount of work into
und das
making
dritte
that
irgendwo
much
als
more
kleinen Frachter.
fluid, much more usable, much visually
Und
better,
Wipkiller, danke für
and
deine
also having
100
the information there and the
Bits.
interactability. So like you can be
Vielen
zoomed in and you
Dank.
can be looking at your radar and you can mouse over contacts and you
Waldkuppel,
get the
ja gut, die
information from it. You click
C1,
them and then that one
ich
now
muss sagen,
selects your
da
target
muss ich sagen,
and
die
do a lot of
C1
things
ist
that
mir
you know, haven't really
zu
been
klein
there.
dann mit
So I think a
48
lot of
SCU.
players, because we
Deswegen
haven't delivered,
muss ich
and this
sagen,
is sort
ist
of
für
at the
mich
top
eigentlich
of
dann die
the talk that
E1
Rich was
die
talking about,
beste
was
Wahl
because we
gewesen,
haven't
was ich
delivered
mir
all the
erholt habe,
things. We've just
weil
delivered some of
das
the
ist mal
things.
irgendwo
Sometimes
wieder
people
was anderes. Halt
just
dieses
focusing on certain things, and if they could
Luxus-Taxi,
do things like
kleines
select their targets easily from the radar, they
Luxus-Taxi,
may not be
das
wanting
ist so
to
mein
see
Fall dann.
400 AR markers when
Weil
they're flying
als
around.
Frachter,
And
muss ich
so
sagen, ist
those
dann
are
die
all
Cutlass
that's
oder die
example on
Freelancer
the
dementsprechend
vehicle side where we're
wahrscheinlich
sort
besser.
of really trying to bring that all in,
Ja,
as well
genau.
as, you know, there's other things that we're
Inras,
doing that
genau,
will come
das
across
würde
the
ich auch
PU in
sagen.
terms of physical buttons, like when you activate
Was?
something,
50?
you're
Die waren
you know,
doch gleich, die
that's
C1. Was?
in
Hab ich
process
dann
right now, but but yeah, you'll
Nee,
click a button,
nee.
you'll see
Die
a
an
character.
110, die
Yeah. Click,
E war ja die
here's the
teuerste,
landing
ne?
gear,
Genau,
or
die war
here's
über
to
100
turn the
Euro
lights on, or
oder so.
here's to activate
Ich
my
muss, grad,
quantum
ich muss,
drive,
grad,
just
ich
to
muss
make
jetzt
it sort
nochmal
of feel
gucken,
physical. But
was da
we're going to give
was
you
da ist.
Also als
modes and
Upgrade
ease of
jetzt.
use,
Als
so that
Upgrade, okay.
information's presenting to you well, and you can
Weil wenn ich nicht
Ja.
Warbind nehme, kostet
have
die
fun being lost in the world, which is the most
A110,
important
And
thing.
a certain level of
die
customization. We're talking about
C1,
this,
stimmt,
you know,
genau,
some
die
ships have
C1
better
120 und
MFDs
die
in more usable
E1
places than
120.
others and stuff
Ne,
like that. So
Well, the other
C1
aspect as well, in terms of
132.
just
als
the radar
Not
and scanning, which
Warbound
is
und
it's a really good
180
example of a feature that we put
DE1,
onto
genau,
the PU in
50
Star
Euro mehr.
Citizen that isn't hit what we envisaged it to be.
Ja,
Because right now,
denke mal,
we're
auch zur
kind of
nächsten
limited to 20
Messe wird die
kilometers.
Corsair dann auch
Now,
nochmal groß
really, you know,
im
I think
Verkauf
you've seen
sein. Ich
Quantum
glaube nicht, dass
Boost
sie das
in some
vorher
of the earlier
hinbekommen.
videos. The
Ja, aber
premise that we
genau, wie
want you
gesagt,
to
also
be is,
ich muss
you know,
sagen,
we've got
die,
this vast
ja, die
universe.
C1
So we want radar and scanning.
ist ein für
We actually, you know, we have this
Preis
smaller radar and
fast zu
scanning
teuer,
of
finde
on the
ich.
FPS. You have the smaller one that's giving you information in the room, and then the
Weil da
larger
kriegst
Ja,
du
aber
ja
leg
one
dir
that's
mal
giving
die
you information about
Freelancer
maybe
oder
the
die
floor that you're
Cutlass
on.
schon
And
und
it's the
die
same
hat
principles on the ship side. It's that we want
vor
a
allem die,
smaller one
die Freelancer hat
that is
einiges
fairly
mehr ans
instantaneous, and that's
Watt.
kind of giving you information about the people you're fighting, or you know your local environment. And when I say small,
Im
I'm
Also weiß nicht,
Endeffekt
was
ist es ja so,
sub 100
ja,
kilometers.
wenn sie
You know, that's
rauskommt,
just giving you
wartet man noch
information
mal
around this area.
ein
But
halbes
then we've
Jahr
got a
oder
charge
so
scanway,
und dann kann man
and
sie
that should be
in-game
giving you
holen.
information about things that are 10, 15, 20,000 kilometers
Und dann
away.
passt
And
das
then
ja auch.
that's where Q-Boost comes in the fact that you're Q-boosting to these
Ja,
locations.
genau,
You're not having to go,
Generalrobos, genau. Die
okay, there's a
Skills
quantum
sichern, die
travel marker
kosten ja
there
nicht
that's a
viel
million
und
kilometers
dann
away. That's like, okay, I'm making a conscious decision to go there.
das Schiff kann man
But for
sich
Q-Boost,
in-game
it's like,
holen.
okay, I am there. I want to boost around the environment, but I want to have things spread around.
Ratchet,
so
okay,
that,
fandest
you know,
du?
we're not just cramped in, because radar and scanning is
Sag mal so,
fundamentally,
es hat,
it has two purposes.
ja,
One purpose
nicht
is to
so
give you information about the things in your
die
environment.
Burner
And
neuen
the second
Sachen
purpose is to
gebracht,
help you
das stimmt.
explore. It's to help
Büro
you
hat man
find
letztes
things
Jahr
that
schon
are not necessarily
gezeigt,
apparent,
die
because space is a big,
war damals schon
dark
sehr
place.
weit. Jetzt ist
So
halt,
we need that,
kann
we
man
want to
fahren
be able to
irgendwo
take
perfekt.
advantage of that. So when you
Aber
have this
ja,
ability to
die
detect
Neuigkeiten
things that are
stimmt,
much
außer halt
further
die neuen
away, all
Schiffe.
of a sudden you start to feel like
Yeah,
you are that pilot.
you got to fly to them
Yeah.
to investigate them. And so, I mean, I think that's a good example of
Und
something
genau,
like
haut
Squadron
rein,
that we were
Hashtag
also looking at,
CitizenCon,
like, how do we solve the problem of
die
your
letzte
patrolling an area,
Auslosung
right? And it's not very
startet
much fun if you
demnächst.
patrol an area and then it's like, space is big. I go to this area and then I look around and
Und
my
dann schauen
radar
wir
covers
mal,
10 kilometers in
Yeah.
front of me,
weil auch die
and that's it. That doesn't feel like I was
Zuschauerzahlen
patrolling, a
beim
large area
Livestream
of
von
space. And so
Star Citizen
we
nimmt
sort
ab.
of were thinking about, well, how
Die Leute wollen einfach
really, if you
wahrscheinlich
think
nicht
about
mehr
it, there's
warten.
like short range, which is what you would call the
Nee,
standard
irgendwann ist auch
control
gut
mode.
weggequatscht.
Ja,
like,
stimmt, das ist
slower
irgendwo ist ein
exploration,
Ding.
I
Vor
come up to
allem, ja, wenn
a
man
derelict,
nur
or there's
quatscht
a cluster
und
of asteroids that
als
I'm going to fly around to see what's happening. And then
Ausschnitte
there's
hier
the medium range,
5
which hasn't really
Sekunden Clips
existed in
zeigt, die
both the PU
fast
and
nicht-
it's something that we
nichts
really wanted to
aussagen.
have in Squadron, and we really should be
Das
in the
ist,
PU, which
ja,
is, well, what's that over there that's 10,000 kilometers away? The equivalent of being on a planet and going, there's a
ist
mountain
dann
over there, I
schon
can see it.
irgendwo
I don't know what's on it, but I'm going to drive
König,
over there or walk
König.
over to that mountain.
Aber
and
Toto,
so
was
the
hältst du
idea
von den
with sort of
Modellen,
the
was die da
scanning
überall
is like
rumstehen haben?
the wave goes out, and yeah, you'll pick up
Gefällt mir.
things
Also
10,
wenn ich einen
20,
3D-Drucker hätte,
30,000
hätte
kilometers
ich die
away.
Bude
So
wahrscheinlich auch
you
schon
definitely
voll.
won't be able to understand
Also
what's
das ist
there.
ja
You'll say,
geil.
there's
Irgendwelche
something,
Vorlagen und so
I'll get,
weiter.
there's a point of
Aber
interest, and so you'll be able to
Ja.
map things, and then
Ja,
we
das
need to
stimmt,
get
ja.
there. But the quantum travel, spooling
Ich
up,
sagen,
spooling
nur, wie
down,
gesagt, die kannst du ja
and
eigentlich kaufen,
and so
aber
this
die
is the whole
sind ja
quantum.
echt,
The idea of
richtig
quantum
teuer.
boost is your sort of
Deswegen.
Ja.
mid-level traversal
Aber bei
speed,
uns
where it
im,
allows you. It's probably about
Discord
tenth the
ist
speed
ja
of
schon
full quantum
reges
travel.
3D
Sort of, not using all the quantum
Drucken
juice, if you want to think of
hier,
it that way. But it
drin.
allows you to
Das
sort of
heißt,
get
da
there
sind
pretty
schon
quickly,
einige, die
and
mit
also
3D-Druck
appreciate the environment you're going
sich
through.
beschäftigen.
And
Und wer weiß,
get over
wer
there. Oh,
weiß.
I go up to the mountain. Okay, no, I can see what's there. Oh, there's trees here. Oh, that's really
Was es da
cool.
noch nicht gibt.
And
Und
that
genau,
opens up a whole bunch of
Mariko,
gameplay. I mean, definitely helps out in
der
Squadron,
Trommelwirbel
but
geht
the PU
los.
is massive, because in the PU, when this rolls into the PU, now you can have exploration gameplay in space. So
Ja,
for
genau,
instance, you could be
Never
Firefox,
had.
wie gesagt, das
Yeah, we've
denke ich
never
auch.
had. So
never
Wenn
had.
es
you
die
could be
Modelle jetzt
in,
dann hier
a
schon zu
big
kaufen
nebula
gibt,
gas
wird es
cloud, and
bestimmt
you
einiges.
scan, and I get a contact
Peak
20k away.
42.
Okay, I'm going to boost over to see whether. Oh, I come up. Oh, look,
Du
it's
hast
a
einen Game Key
it's a
gewonnen und
derelict,
du
or
musst einfach
there's
noch
a abandoned mining station. There's this group of rocks
Ausrufezeichen
over here, or
Slash
go over here,
ein-
and we
Claim
can even in the
eingeben,
PU
Slash,
be in a
ja.
case where you can sort of almost sort of
Ausrufezeichen Claim und dann
procedurally
hast du's.
generate some points of interest when you start to scan that you can go and visit. So I think the whole idea of sort of these three sort of levels of traversal. One is you sort of regular,
lesen?
non-quantum one where you're
Nee,
using
nee, nee.
regular thrusters, which is much
Hat
more
noch nicht.
sort
Hat
of
noch nicht,
limited
deswegen, ja.
and works for
Ja,
combat
genau.
and stuff like that. Then there's the quantum boost, which is sort of to fast run over to a place, and then there's
Hau rein.
the quantum travel, which is the really long, okay, I'm going to go to this planet that's
Ja, also
500,000 kilometers
das ist doch
away.
aber wie bei der
I'm gonna
letzten
be
auch.
in
Weil jetzt
Quantum
haben
for
sie dann
5
diesen
minutes to get
Techniktypen
there.
da reingeholt, den
And I
keiner
think
sehen
that's going
wollte.
to
Dann
open
haben sie
up
ein
a huge
PTU
amount
aufgemacht
in
und dann war keiner mehr da, der den Stream gucken wollte. Da
definitely
waren sie alle am
makes a big
Zocken.
difference to
Das
the
ist jetzt
game.
genau
And
das
it
Gleiche.
makes,
Ne? Also,
Ja, genau.
exploring in Squadron in space
Siehst du,
feel
seit ich vor
much
5
bigger.
Minuten
Yeah.
gesagt
Because
habe,
that
dass
was the
es,
thing we were trying
die
to
Leute
follow,
abnehmen,
and I
sind
think
schon
it's a
wieder
problem in
500
the
Leute
PU
weniger
right
da.
now. It's when you're in space, it's sort of like,
Deswegen.
most
können
of
ja
it
zu uns
is
kommen.
It's point to point.
it's empty for you, right? It's like you
Alles
spend
gut.
your time around the space stations
Genau.
or some asteroids here around the planet, but we want to open it up a bit more and have that idea of,
Nee,
I
ich
can
habe gerade mal geguckt,
I can
also
detect something,
3.18
I
nicht,
want to
aber das
investigate it.
Video
So
hat
the
die
whole sort of
gleiche,
exploration,
ja,
investigative gameplay
3.17.3,
can happen
genau
in
wieder
space
live
now
auch.
because of
Ja.
these different
Naja.
modes of travel, and the scanning is going to be a huge,
Da ist
huge
nichts.
deal.
Oh,
So I
die
know we
Zeit
have a clip for
verrinnt.
this. For folks who maybe joined the
ist
program late and didn't see the flight experience
nicht
segment
mehr
earlier,
da.
or
Der
if you're
wird
watching
genau
this
wie die
separately on
anderen Leute,
YouTube
die ja
and don't
wahrscheinlich
know what this looks
vor
like,
lauter
let's take a look at
Langeweile
the
vom
Quantum
Quatsch
Boost
fast
clip that we
eingeschlafen sei.
have, so we can see it one more time here.
Jetzt mal wieder was.
Ja,
So
genau.
just to call out, that's going to be the old HUD.
PTUs. Oh,
Yeah,
guck
That
mal,
is
es
the
ist
old
wieder
HUD, that's too
was.
busy.
That's the next old HUD.
Yeah.
Earlier
Yeah.
we were showing the old HUD.
So we've done a scan here. That's also the old point of interest, because the point of interest will be just points.
Yeah.
But basically, we've done a scan. We've got some points of interest that are, multiple 10Ks away.
And you can see the distance there. It says 13,000 kilometers on the right-hand side. So this is obviously just placeholder UI for the quantum boost.
we've-
Again, you can just boost over there, and it obviously has this interactive gameplay, which obviously went into.
Yeah, and this, by the way, is that's all programmer work in progress from Yogi on the quantum boost mechanism, because you're just going to have to stay in the zone to keep in boost, otherwise you'll fall out of boost. But we've gone over to the planet here. So what it's allowing you to do is sort of have that mid-level traversal and investigate things without having to, spend
super.
forever at 1,200 meters per second or quantum traveling over it. It's over too quickly.
So
Herr
just to
Wipkiller,
clarify again
nein,
for folks, if you
ich
watched the flight
heute
experience
nicht
segment
mehr.
earlier in the day,
Morgen
that's the
wieder
old
ganz
UI,
normal
which is
ab
probably closer to what
18
you're
Uhr
familiar with in
bis
the PU today. What we just showed
bis
now is the
dahin dann weh
new
tut
old
vor lauter
UI,
Sitze.
the one that was intermediate
Also
now that we're now
wahrscheinlich,
moving away from.
ja.
And the
Well,
new
ba-
one,
Eins,
basically,
zwei.
it's the same as it's the styled Squadron UI that was from the UI you have in the PU.
Weil sonst wird es
So
wahrscheinlich
what you have in
zu
the
viel des
PU is
Guten
the-
und
these
meine
generic
Frau
version that
wird
Zane did. This was the one
ja,
that we had the
mir die
style that we
Kreditkarte
did for the
streichen.
GIS style, but it was still
Dann gibt's
based on
keine
the
neuen
idea
Schiffe
of
mehr,
all
nichts
this
mehr.
information being present. And we've
Ja,
decided
dann
that
musst du
we
jetzt
wanted
noch
to
alles
really
kaufen.
scale that
Ja,
back to
so
be more
ungefähr.
contextual to switch between modes.
Und
So that's one of the
die
reasons why we're not
Lukiria,
really showing all the
du
HUD
bist
and the
jetzt
MFP
gezogen
stuff now,
worden.
because we're in the process of the change.
Dann
So
hau
it's,
mal
you know,
du
a lot
rein.
of programmer are, and you
Ausrufezeichen
even saw
claim.
it in the need for speed segment, whereas a lot of that, like the
Ach,
modes
da
stuff
ist es
and
doch.
everything, they've just sort of
It-
hacked in the modes to the current HUD stuff, but when the new one comes online, it should be much
Ja.
cleaner and easier to go. And I don't know if it was too clear on the video that we were seeing, but on the video we said we were originally in SCM mode,
Yep.
standard control
Ja,
mode, and then
Horistas, ich muss dich aber auch leider
we
alleine
switched to
lassen.
quantum
Müssen wir
mode,
mit
so
der
the
Hund.
spool up wasn't
Ja,
really
dann
the
mach das
spool up
mal.
for the quantum boost.
Ich gucke mir das
Spool up
Ganze
was
da.
just- there's a
am
spool
Morgen
up as you
an,
go
wenn
into
da nochmal
quantum
was
mode, your
gekommen
shield's
ist.
powered down.
Die letzten
So
5
you,
Stunden des
you know,
Streams.
there is some risk when you're in
Ja,
the fast
kannst du mal
traversal
gucken.
mode, and the
Genau,
quantum
gucken wir
drive
mal.
powers
Also
up. But
dann,
once
Foto,
it's spooled
mach's
up
gut.
and you look at a
Jo,
place,
war
you
mal
can
wieder schön.
boost
Mach's gut.
towards it.
Vielleicht
just
bis
you
morgen
press
Abend,
shift
wenn es
and it's
passt bei mir nicht, ich
instant,
weiß es nicht.
And
Ich
so,
melde mich
so
nochmal.
for people that
Alles
want
klar,
to
bis
go,
dann.
oh,
Ciao.
what's over
Dann,
there?
ciao.
You know, people have been wanting to. I just want to like free quantum, right? You know, there's people who want to do that for quite a
Ja.
while.
It's like
That
getting on your
basically is what
horse.
quantum boost is.
You know.
second star to the right, and straight onto the
Es ist, ja.
So yeah, so we've been talking about these
Es
flight
wird
experience
nichts
stuff,
mehr
the
so, wie es
ship-related stuff,
aussieht.
the new UI stuff, the contextual changes.
Naja,
and
lassen wir mal.
We'll
Gucken wir
obviously
mal.
show those as we
Wir
get
haben
closer
ja
to
noch ein paar
being ready to show those.
Minütchen.
You talked a little bit about the
Und
star map. Again, not
vielleicht
quite ready to show today's stuff.
kommt ja noch
As
doch
far as
noch
those mapping
irgendwas.
things and getting around stuff, there's also the
Ja
minimap.
genau, wie bei den
There's also the minimap,
Marvel-Filmen.
which
Der
has
Abspann,
always been this
nach
promise
5
of being
Minuten
able to find your
Abspann
way
kommt
through
dann
either a really
der
large ship or a space
ultimative
station or stuff like that.
Kurztrailer.
What can you tell us about the work on the minimap?
So radar,
Wie
as
es dann
we call
weitergeht.
it, is essentially it
Im Abspann
encapsulates
drin.
the star map It encapsulates what's
Und
in your
nachdem
cockpit.
kommt
It
dann
also
nochmal ein
encapsulates
kurzer
when you're in
Abspann,
FPS, you
bevor
have an
dann
FPS
der
radar and
echte
scanner.
letzte
And the
Burner kommt.
minimap is essentially a way for you to be able to, and you can access it both from your Mobi or it'll be on your HUD, a way for you to get the spatial awareness in, when you're in a 3D environment in FPS. So I think what we have in terms of the minimap, it gives you that 3D isometric view that
Das
you
war
can
auch
move
eher, wie
around,
gesagt, als
and
Witz
all the
gedacht.
information in there is underpinned by the FPS radar and scanner. So the information that you're scanning
wie
in the
gesagt,
environment is the
mittlerweile
information that you'll
dürfte
see
es
on the
klar
minimap.
sein, dass eigentlich
So if you go into, say,
nichts
a
mehr
known
kommt,
location, so
weil
let's say you go to Microtech,
die werden es nicht
that landing zone,
echt so lange
essentially, that will be
rauszögern
pushed
und
to
warten, bis
your
dann
Mobi glass.
gar
So you'll
kein
be able to then
Zuschauer mehr
load
da
up the
ist.
minimap and go, okay, how
Das
do I
würde
get
eher
out here? I
die
mean, I've seen so many
Community
different
verärgern.
new players play Star Citizen, they're like, where do I go? So it'd be nice for us to be able to
das da
go,
ist und
here's the spaceport, here's where you go and buy food and drink, here's where you go and buy weapons, and you can just go,
Aber ich muss
cool,
immer nur
I open
sagen,
up
ich
my
finde es
map,
echt
it's like,
faszinierend
that's where
noch
I am.
dieses
Oh, that's where I can
hey,
go. And it gives you
Studiobüro
a
oder
map
was sie
at
da
your
angerichtet
fingertips.
haben. Das
But then when you're at
würde mir
an
echt gefallen,
environment that
sowas.
is not, say, let's say you go to a derelict outpost, you'll be mapping that environment as you go, or you may be able to find a terminal that has the map on there that you can download, and then you have it
Oder
to you. So it really
Schuhe,
allows us, again,
wo
Star
sitzt,
Citizen, one of its strengths
da
is that
mein
it's
Computer
scale,
drauf.
but that's a challenge for us as developers to be able to give it to players and for them to be able
Und
to
als
understand
Hintergrund
and
aber dann
navigate
die
where they need
Bar.
to go. Because the first thing is, how do I play the game? Where do I need to go? What do I need to do? So, how do you play the game is about making the barrier to entry, the controls
Ja,
smooth
genau,
and
genau.
intuitive,
So
what you understand.
den Schreibtisch
And then it's like,
rumgedreht
where do I need to go?
und dann
okay, well, this allows you, we have a mini-map here, and this allows
kann
you
man
to go,
da
oh,
schön
cool, there's the
streamen und im
spaceport, there's
Hintergrund
the
hat man die
shuttle, or
Bar
there's the
dann.
train, or this is how I get to this area. And we can provide, missions that allow people to then navigate to those places,
Ob
so that
das
then
wäre
they
das
understand,
ideale
okay, this is
Zuckerzimmer
how I
dann.
get to a certain place. Because everybody, if somebody says to me tomorrow, come round to my house or go here, just give them a postcode and you put it in GPS. Everybody's so
put it in Google Maps.
Exactly.
I mean, you need the street level version of it.
Yeah.
And so we've long wanted this. It's very critical for
Radius für die
Squadron,
B1.
but it's
Ja,
also
warum dann nicht?
I think
Radius
important
gibt es
for
ja
the PU.
schon
And the concept is that
ewig
some
und
of the maps are
dementsprechend
sort of
auch
readily
in-game und
available. You
alles.
just walk into
Kann man
a
ruhig
city
machen.
and the terminal auto connects to your Mobi or whatever, and you get the map downloaded. And some of them you may have to explore something, and then as you explore it, you map it, just like a sort of more traditional mapping technique. And there'll be some cases
Genau,
like
die,
we have
stimmt,
some stuff
die
in Squadron,
Modelle,
which I
die
think
auf der
play perfectly well
Seite
in
von der
PU, where,
CitizenCon
like,
ganz
you don't have
unten
the
ist
map
ein Link,
initially, but if you
wo
hack
man
in, or you
zu
can
der Firma
download
kommt, die
it.
die
This is
Modelle
like
macht.
Asiago
Aber
is
wie
an
gesagt,
example
die
of-
sind
we've been showing it 'cause we showed
meiner
it,
Meinung
a
nach
while back
viel zu
as a
teuer.
location. It's just one of the very
Das ist, ja,
it's a minor location in
bringt's
terms of
irgendwie
Squadron,
nicht,
but,
finde ich.
since we showed it, we thought, okay, that's a good,
It's just a
Kann
good
man
backdrop.
it's a
gucken.
good
for us to
backdrop
use.
rather than just grey boxes.
Das ist das Falsche.
But that would be an example, is you don't load the layout of that place, but you would have to go and hook into their system, download the map, and then now you would have it in your mini map. So what we have is we have some footage here,
Kurz mal auf
which is
die
showing
Seite drauf
how
von der
the
CitizenCon
visuals, the mini map,
und
in terms of sort of an isometric render
In engine.
in the engine, in the UI, that will
schauen
essentially
wir
become
mal,
your
wo
mini
das-
map, but you'll have a more sort of reduced version
die
with
Seite
you
noch
in
auf
the
die
middle
Schnelle
as you're moving
findet.
around. But
Yep.
if we run it,
Let's play it.
you'll see kind of what
Haben wir da noch?
the tech is. So first, this is in the editor, but it's essentially what it does is it's taking our existing layouts, levels, ships, so we don't have to build this custom, but it's a way of applying certain shaders and marking up certain objects to be displayed, like the floor gets displayed but the walls don't. So we can just take the existing geometry you already have streamed in that you're walking around already, and then use it to be rendered for our mini-map. So this is essentially in the engine, using the Idris ship itself and the various parts of its interior to create the mini-map without any special. This doesn't have any specific custom like UI art for it, other than some of the like level things that say ground level or whatever.
It's one of the advantages of having high detailed ships,
Yeah.
because the environment's already in a good state to show straight out the gate.
And so the idea of this being systemic is that when the feature is ready to go, ready for prime time, and everything, we can just apply it to space station.
Yeah, because a lot of
landing
traditional
zones.
game development, you have to make custom minimaps.
Yeah.
So you look at an environment and you go, we have to make a custom environment minimap. So if we want to support lots, tens, hundreds, and thousands of locations,
especially for the PU.
and absolutely for
yeah.
the PU, it's just not viable. So we wanted to come up with a solution that we can use, with minimal effort on the side of content creation, but gives us all of the information that we want. And this minimap is not just, oh, that's where I am. It can show you objectives, it can show you other people, it can show you information about those things. And again, it's all underpinned by the radar and scanner. So when we call it the minimap, this is just a kind of how you view your radar information in FPS. And your radar and scanner gives you so much more information than just, oh, that's the name of the door. It tells you what's the state, does it have power, can I hack it? If it's a person, what's their active status, are they injured? So if you're coming into here and going, I'm trying to do a medical mission, I've got a marker, I can go, cool, I can get a scan of the local lie of the area and go, right, this person's injured. Oh, his body's injured too. Oh, he's got a tier 1 injury. I'm going to go and help him before he bleeds out because I can see his health. And you'll be able to see that via this information.
Yeah, it allows you to
Jetzt lang genug
detect saboteurs or intruders, but then using like the relay network
den
where the
gibt's
saboteurs
bisher
and
noch
intruders
nicht.
can
Also
start
wie
pulling
gesagt, er ist noch
fuses,
nicht
start
drin.
hiding themselves
Der
from
So this
soll
will also
kommen,
underpin
sobald
resource network.
Yeah,
hier
so
das
exactly
Ganze
the
fertig
same
ist, die CitizenCon,
visuals and
und
tech
dann
is
das
planned to drop into
Rennen anfängt.
So the resource. So if you're
Ab
looking at
wann
like
soll
your
er drin
schematic
sein?
for the ship to where your relays
Dann
are
manchmal
gonna
das
be,
Gefühl,
or
das wohl sie hier
security
noch
Bulkhead.
which doors
hinauszögern.
are open or closed. Basically, it will
Bis
pull
der dann
up
kommt.
your holographic view of your ship like that using the same tech. So that the
Ja,
idea is
General Oberst.
those two things work well together.
All right, so we've been talking about the FPS step, the step that
Der
affects
ist,
the
sagen wir
player
so, oder
specifically.
ist er
We're
noch
going to
nicht
touch a few
fertig?
more of those things before we leave today.
Und jetzt hocken
We've moved
500
up
Leute
into
da,
space and talked about our
die
flight
ihn
experience
fertig
and the
programmieren
scanning and
gerade.
the minimap and stuff.
So lange
Now,
müssen die quatschen.
from ourselves and our ships, let's talk about our enemies, our opponents, the entities we're going to encounter, and talk about some of the AI improvements that have been coming because of work on Squadron. What can you tell us?
So the AI systems that we have, we basically threw them away. So we found out we wanted to understand where we wanted to go, what we wanted to achieve, and over the years as I've worked in games, and I think probably Chris would attest to as well, is that the best AI are kind of some of the simpler AI that you have a really good solid foundation, then you build on top of it. And I think our AI over the period of time that has been there, I think it's kind of had lots of different iterations, and it kind of lost its way a little bit.
Kythera, and then
Yeah, it's kind of lost. So what we've done, and
Well,
when we say
they've also no one's the AI that's in the PU has never really had tuning time.
no, exactly the focus.
And it was a basic implementation at the
Übrigens,
beginning.
da
and
könnt
then
ihr
it's
mal gucken, da
been
sind
rolled out, and there's so
das
many
ist
other
der Shop
things
mit den
going on
Modellen.
that they really haven't had time to focus on it because
Und
we're playing
ja,
and with the servers running at 6 frames a
also wie
second.
gesagt,
There's a
also
whole
wenn
bunch of problems that come with this that
ich die
doesn't
Modelle
help
so
the AI out
angucke,
at
muss
all.
ich sagen, nepp,
So this is
das
this is actually a really good example of
definitiv
where
zu teuer.
Squadron really helps.
Weiß nicht,
because
was ihr
we're
dazu
saying,
sagt,
okay,
aber
don't worry
ja.
about that. I mean, yeah, I'm sorry that the AI is kind of brain dead a lot of the times in the PU. It's a combination of it's older logic and behaviors haven't been well developed, but also it's because of poor performance of the servers, and what's going to happen with server meshing is going to make a big difference for that. And there's other things that are happening in the background that will also make it better. But the advantage of taking it onto the Squadron side is that we can really just focus on the AI, the behaviors, iterating on it, adding sort of interest and complexity, and making them feel like real humans fighting you. In the case of Vandal, real aliens fighting you.
Und Nitara, danke für dein Abo. 18 Monate,
Let's be quiet about that.
1,5 Jahre.
But
Wahnsinn, vielen
not
Dank.
get tied up in some other problems that come with multiplayer, come with online servers, and make that work really
Ja, Whipkiller, genau.
good
Die
as a
Dinger
single
sind
player,
extrem teuer.
having fun, feeling challenged, feeling like I'm not just shooting
Ja,
dummies
genau,
that jump
TD
up and
das.
I
Also
can
wie
easily
gesagt, ich bin
blast.
auch schon
And when that all
echt
works,
lange jetzt
then
in letzter Zeit am
comes across into the
Überlegen, ob ich
PU,
mir einen 3D-Drucker
especially
hole.
when some of the
Weil
latest
ich
stuff's going to
mir
trigger in the
vorstelle,
PU,
wenn ich
I
mir
think
so
it'll be
2 Modelle
a
auf den
whole different
Schreibtisch stellen
experience.
will,
And it's,
ja,
I won't argue, it's been like a long, hard
da
slog
ist dann der
on the AI side.
3D-Drucker für
It's partly
umsonst.
because we wanted to become really systemic, and we have a massive, especially in the PU, a massive world that can have all these different situations. So it's not, like if you're doing a standard FPS game, a Call of Duty, like the narrative parts of it, you know exactly where everyone's going to be, and you
Aber
can
dass
sort
man
of script
1,5
actions for the AI to
Stunden
make
über
them seem
Scanning
intelligent. But
reden
really,
kann.
they're kind of following
Wow.
scripts. Whereas with us, all the different planets, all the different, can you be, locations on the planets or up in a spaceship, or all these different situations the AI could be in, there's no way you could script it all. So you need to make it systemic. It needs to understand the environment. It needs to have perception of what's
Ja,
happening
Shadow
around
Prime,
it.
das stimmt.
And
Du hast
be able to
recht, die gibt schon
communicate
für, wie
with the
gesagt,
other
gibt's ja
AI it's
schon
fighting alongside
unter
to seem
200
like they're
gute.
working as a team. And so that takes time to work. The AI team is been working on it for a long time, led by Francesco Riccucci. He's been doing a great job.
Ich habe mich noch
And,
gar nicht genau so
we
befasst,
absolutely have turned the corner
was es gibt,
this
für
year,
welche momentan. Deswegen,
because
also da
I,
muss ich selbst irgendwann mal gucken.
both me and Rich actually, we were playing it when some of the blast systems came in, and it was
Maverick,
challenging to say the least.
Yes.
And challenging in a good way, in like the fact that we were like, okay, we want to clear everyone out. Like we were running Asiato as a test level. Okay, let's see.
Okay,
If we can
Glendado,
run
wie
and
gesagt, ich
take
habe
all
da
the flavors
überhaupt
out.
keine Ahnung.
And,
Muss ich zugeben, wie
Rich
gesagt,
is much better
absolut
FPS
nichts.
player
Und
than me.
deswegen.
I think I'm kind of okay,
Und,
but Rich is much better. But no, we weren't all
Aber wie gesagt,
trying
mal
to get it.
gucken,
But I was like, I'm
Richtung
going
Weihnachten,
home. I downloaded
was
the
dann
build
passt.
and home. I'm like, damn it, I'm going to finish this level. I'm like,
Wie's
oh,
aussieht.
almost managed to do it. I mean, it was, it was getting, it was like Elden Ring
Deswegen,
from
also,
software. Like, I want
ja.
to do it one more time. And it wasn't just that you were getting like a headshot or anything. Where
Das Interessante
like,
hier
okay,
am
the AI
Stream
is
ist momentan zu
supernatural and they can
beobachten,
instantly shoot you. It was like
wie die
they were moving
Zuschauerzahl
around, they were
mit jedem
anticipating
Tacker
what you were doing,
abnimmt.
they were trying to flank your areas, and they were behaving
ist
intelligently.
dann,
And those are
ja.
all behaviors and systems that we've
Ist
been
der
working on
Wahnsinn
in
gerade.
terms of
Das ist,
like realistic
ja.
perception. Like they can, they can hear a sound around a corner, but if you were 3-4 doors away or whatever, maybe they wouldn't hear you if you dropped something. And see where you were and see you in the peripheral vision, or they'd have different ways of approaching, searching for you or fighting you. Whether they're
Ich würde auch
more
sagen, die
aggressive and
Jungs
they're
da
pushing
links
up
und rechts, die
towards you, or
sehen
they're
sehr,
defensive and they're staying behind cover,
sehr
or
gelangweilt
trying to
aus.
flank you. So there's a whole bunch of work that's done, and so on the AI side, I'm actually feeling like
Yeah, it's
going
really
to be
good.
some pretty
Der eine
great
hat
stuff.
den
And so
Nick-Kopf.
that
Ja,
is going to be
ja,
stuff
ja,
that
alles
will
gut, immer
ultimately be coming
gut.
to the PU, and it'll be really
Und
cool.
rechts
But I don't know if,
der
Rich wants to
Ausdruck
add a
auf dem
bit to it.
Gesicht
Well,
heißt,
I need to ask
es ist
something
bald
because
vorbei.
I've spent more than a single day on the internet before. When you say we've thrown everything
Well,
away,
actually, I was about to come back to that.
Firefox,
So-
ja, ich
That's
denke, dass
gonna be the
die
title
of the
aktuell
talk
gerade in
more.
Well, it's
Großbritannien
interesting
sind.
because what we talked about is we identified everything that
Weil
was
die
there.
sind ja
So when
beide
I came
dahin
on, I
gezogen.
wanted to understand where we're talking years now. So what is there? How do we want to change it, and how do we want to manipulate it? So we're not throwing away the more technical underpinnings.
Also
of the
Großbritannien ist ja
AI.
auch so
assumption's still
weit.
there.
No, like
so-
subsumption
Schnell
or
mal
like
ins Auto
how they,
hingedüst und
how
dann
they navigate
den
and
auf
find around the world.
den
It's more
Hinterkopf
about
gehauen
the bits
und
that you go and you
gesagt,
tune
los
and
geht's,
bits you
macht mal was
tweak.
Gescheites.
We call them behaviors, like AI behaviors. So what we did is we pulled all the AI back and stripped it back to essentially 3 base behaviors. Essentially defender, so I want to stay back
Ja,
in
das
cover and
Beste
defend the
kommt zum
location.
Schluss, aber
A
ich
strafer
habe keine
who
Ahnung, was
kind of
das
wants to
Beste
get,
sein soll.
siege you and wants to go behind you, and then pushers that kind of want to put pressure onto you. So we
Das
wanted to
glaub ich
create these
nicht.
3 core behaviors that the AI can choose to go, they can
Das
choose
ist
to
der
combat
Wahnsinn
behaviors.
grad.
This is.
Nee.
So once you've engaged in combat, they can then select one of these behaviors to engage you, so that you get a mixture of combat when you're fighting them, and obviously you might get 3
Ja, dann
defenders,
das
or you might
Schlimme
get one
ist,
straight from 2
ja,
pushers. And we've got a video to show some of the
ist ja auch
behaviors. But then what we have is we have a trait
die,
system that sits on top of that, and that's where designers can
der
go in and
Bucky
go,
ist
okay, I
auch noch
want this
nicht da
defender to be
und
to always defend. He can never re-roll
ja,
as
kam mir
another
genau der
behavior. Or I
Gesichtsausdruck,
want him
der
to
sagt,
be
der spricht Bände.
like a turret, so he never
Der
moves from cover
spricht
to
ich
cover. Or I
Bände.
want pushers to be, I want always to be a pusher. I want them to, be aggressive. I want them to be reckless. I want them to have friendly fire. So we can go in and essentially we've got 3 base behaviors that just by themselves play well. You can play that and go, okay, do these
Weil
3,
ich hoffe ja,
is
ich
that a
gucke
fun
ja immer
experience?
wieder,
Then you can start adding in all the other things on top. You go, okay, I want this trait,
der
this
Bucky
trait. So you're
endlich da
crafting
ist,
combat
aber
experiences.
es
So
tut
in a
sich
PU
nichts,
mission, if
es
you've
tut
got
sich
a
nichts.
ship coming
Ja,
in, bringing in
Oldman, da hast du
reinforcements,
recht, also
we can say, okay,
es
we
wird
can weight the behavior. So
langsam
you're not getting the
wirklich
same thing every time, but you can go, okay, you get
langweilig,
these guys who
weil
push, they're quite aggressive because that's their
tut sich
faction, whether
absolut
it's
nichts.
Ninetales, or these guys are quite defensive, they're more military. And what we have is these traits that multiply the behavior. So now we've got multiple different things. And then you add different weapons in there. So you've got sniper rifles, so the different engagement ranges. And all of a sudden you have this matrix of individual behaviors that is multiplied into the hundreds that allows us to have a really strong combat experience that is not the same. It's not,
Interessant
Star
ist auch
Citizen
der
games that
Chat
you can
bei
be playing
denen.
for hundred thousands of hours.
Die meisten Sachen, was
You don't want to just be having
reingeschrieben
the same
worden
combat
ist,
experience
ist
over and over
Free
again. Vice
Jared.
versa in Squadron, we want you to be able to ramp up the combat. We want to have factions play differently. We want you to have different experiences you play
Ich
throughout
glaube,
the
das
game.
merken die anderen
And
Zuschauer
when we
auch.
looked at the AI combat behavior, that's something we identified. But then we also looked at perception and basically tweaked that and readed that in a way that allows us that, you're coming around the corner, it's not just instant
Zuschauerzahl
headshot.
hat
Because
die
to be honest, AI, it's very
nächste
easy to make
Marke
AI that are amazing.
unterschritten.
Because they're just computer.
ist,
They know
ja.
where you are. They know exactly what, they don't have to mouse aim. It's just instant headshot. It's very easy to make them too hard. What
But
is
it's not human.
no
right?
exactly what we want to do
Wahnsinn.
is we want to make it challenging but fair, and that is when Chris was talking about playing through Asiado. Even though it was very challenging, when we died, it was because we made a mistake. It was like, okay, I didn't check my left when I came out here, and I'm like, oh, I got taken out. And we've also looked at accuracy. So we've looked at
Genau.
accuracy as that, even a human, even a soldier, they don't immediately have a bead on a target and they pull the trigger. They take a time to
dann,
adjust to it. So, as soon as you pop out of cover, they're like,
Emote
oh, someone's there.
durchhalten
It's not
3.0.
instantly on you. They've got a bit of time. And then what we wanted to do is that we don't want AI to be 100%
Aber wie gesagt,
accurate,
wir haben
but
ja
we want
die
you to
große
still feel
Tasse.
pressure. So we have a silhouette-based accuracy model now, so that if they do miss, you're
Und
getting
dann
that sense like,
gepasst.
it's kind of going past your head, and you're like, okay, I'm under pressure. And we want the AI to pressure you, but pressure you in a way that you feel like,
naja.
oh, what? How did he shot me through a box? Like, oh, he's pushing that way, and you're hearing
Das
him.
ist-
You're like, okay, they're coming
soll
this
man
way, and I'm
sagen?
being pincered. And I think that's where we've put our real focus on terms of how they perceive you in
Oldman,
the
ja,
environment when
weiß
they're
ich.
socially active. How do they perceive you in combat? And then we have pretty much 90% of what I've talked
Weiß
about there
ich.
is in the game. We've had balanced passes. We've played it. It's a lot of fun. And
Okay,
then what we
Carmen,
have on
das
top of that is
kann
future
dann
things that we're gonna be adding
entweder
even
noch
more.
eine ganze Weile
We've
gehen
got versions of them doing
oder
medic behavior,
relativ schnell.
reviving allies and ammo management and all the other advanced combat behaviors that we can pull on top, which we're already working on. But they're underpinned by an absolute solid foundation.
Aber wenn
So
man
if you strip all
hochrechnet,
of it back just to
100
those three
Zuschauer in
base
alle
behaviors,
5
then the push
Minuten,
strafer,
kann
is
man
it
sich
fun?
ungefähr
Because it's not
ausrechnen,
fun there.
wie lange das dauert.
It's not going to be fun
doesn't
here.
matter.
You can't just keep relying
Bis sie
on
weg
putting stuff
sind.
on top and going, oh, it's going to get fun. when we do this,
Carmen,
it's gonna get
nee,
fun when we
weil
do
wie
this."
gesagt, das
So we
soll ja
pulled it back
laufen,
so
wenn
that,
die hier fertig
you have a
sind.
challenge, that you feel like you're being pushed, that you feel like you're under pressure.
Und
Especially in
deswegen,
Squadron,
also wie gesagt,
you're not a
das
commando,
Event
you're
soll
a fighter
laufen, wenn die
pilot.
hier fertig sind und
Fighter
dann
pilots
soll
don't go
auch
in and,
der
they're not John Rambo.
neue Bucky da
And again, in the
sein.
PU, you could be a haulage trucker, or you could be you might want to do something else. You might want to be.
Oder kriegen
doing
es kann natürlich
some
sein, wie gesagt, dass
homesteads, or
sie
you
das
wanna do
Event nicht auf die
trading.
Reihe
So
kriegen.
when you get into FPS,
Kann
we
natürlich
need
auch
to
sein.
have the
Und sie
the
deswegen,
AI reflect the level of difficulty
immer weiter
we want to
labern
push
müssen.
into this universe.
Yeah, and I mean,
Und
Throwing
danke für dein
away
Follow, schön, dass du da bist.
Yeah,
about the
it's
behavior.
disingenuous,
But basically,
but
game developer is iteration, right? So you have V1, then you have V2, and then
Yeah.
V3, and V1 was the very first basic combat behavior, and it was.
Ja, da
it
wird
wasn't,
wahrscheinlich, es kann auch sein, wie
it was
gesagt, da
the beginning, and
steht
there's a lot
bestimmt
more
einer hinter der
systems
Kamera und
now
wedelt
underpin
immer
it.
mit dem
That's why we
Schild.
threw the
Noch
base
5
one away,
Minuten,
because we have
5
more
Minuten.
ones that are underpinned by a
Wir
lot
schaffen
more
es
of
in
the
5
things we talked
Minuten.
about, like perception, the accuracy, and all this other stuff that happens.
And within the context you were speaking
Und nach 4,5
specifically of the
Minuten
FPS
noch das
combat
nächste Schild.
behaviors.
Sorry, nochmal
Correct.
5
Like
Minuten.
the 7
Wir haben
segments
es
I
noch
did about the
nicht.
bartenders,
Aber
those are
nur
all
5
still accurate.
Minuten.
No, social. So I mean, social AI and combat behaviors. There is
We've
social.
redone the chow line yet
Yeah.
again.
Ja,
Social AI is
also,
staying
More
the
also
same.
Messel?
der Chat
More
ist
Messel?
auch
Yeah.
nicht gerade amused da drin.
But we'll also be
Kann
using
zwar
some of
echt
these
nicht viel lesen,
tenets and
aber
ethos to
ja,
push into the flight
die
AI.
Emotes
So the
sagen
flight
stellenweise
AI,
auch viel
which I think
aus.
was talked about in the earlier talk in terms of the jousting and how we want to have more close combat, things like accuracy
Ja,
and
gut, was
behaviors and
bleibt
how
ihnen
they
auch
can roll
das
different
übrig?
traits and how that's something that we'll
Entweder
have
gibt man
holistically
zu,
across
dass
AI
irgendwas nicht passt
across
und
Star Citizen
man
as a
deswegen
whole.
weiter quatschen
You know,
muss.
we're showing it as the FPS,
Oder wie
but it's
gesagt.
very similar. So it's something that we can show the
Yeah,
clip of.
we've got
Oder
we're
sie
half
machen
the
es
Force
halt
guys waiting to do
wirklich,
the
weil es ihnen
race.
Spaß
So
macht.
let's look at some
Das ist genau
videos.
das andere.
So what I'd suggest, I think we'd probably show the investigation first
Yeah,
before we
well,
go into the
because
combat.
the other things
Yeah.
outside of, you just talked about combat.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of other behavior in terms of, because, like I said, stealth game plays a lot.
Yes.
So, Squadron is the test bed for that. So investigation, so like someone hears a noise, what's that? Let's go check it out. They radio their, back to base or their buddy, hey, I heard
Das
something
ist-
here.
Yep.
Or if they get in a gunfight, they could actually
Goldman,
call back,
ja,
hey, I need
genau,
reinforcements,
warte,
and
ich
they'll
mache
come
ein
in. That's all
bisschen-
behaviors that's in
Mach ein
working right
bisschen
now
leiser.
in Squadron.
Yep.
And then on top of that, you're making the joke about the bartender and all the rest of stuff. But really, the main
So.
cooking bed for what we call social
Weil
AI
das stimmt, das
is
ist irgendwann kann man es echt nicht mehr.
in Squadron that will come into the PU. So it's not
Das
just
ist
the bartender or even people eating at the chow line. It's engineers going about their daily business or
Aber das Interessanteste an dem ganzen Ding ist jetzt echt mittlerweile der Chat.
or for instance
Flight attendants or hangar personnel.
the hangar
Was die da schreiben, das ist
operating on the hangar, and then when they're not fixing
Ja.
something, they're having a conversation on the side. For instance, there's a whole dynamic conversation system.
genau, weil man nennt nur Gelaber, ohne dass man jetzt was sieht, weil letzte Mal, wo man wenigstens einen kurzen Ausschnitt jetzt gesehen hat, das ist ja auch schon wieder, keine Ahnung, 20 Minuten her und deswegen, also ja.
All of a sudden brings that space to life.
So
Ja,
but the dynamic
genau,
conversation
das
system
ist-
allows it. So we have some that are sort of more story scripted conversations,
Yeah.
like if you eavesdrop on some people patrolling, and we've got some stuff we want to let you hear, so you know.
Eine Stunde hätte ich gesagt, alles klar, eine Stunde kann man über das reden und es ist auch mal interessant dann, dass Chris wieder vor der Kamera ist und ein bisschen verzählt und alles, aber das sind jetzt 2 Stunden und es hat sich im Endeffekt ja nichts getan.
But that's also a system that's going to come into the PU that's going to create a huge amount of life. So when you go into a bar in the PU or you're
Und das ist
wandering
dann,
around
ja.
the big point of interest, the cities, people will be having
Ja, genau, das nimmt keiner auf mehr. Also da hast du echt recht.
But it will be
Und wie gesagt, es ist ja kaum jetzt ein paar Minuten her, wo ich gesagt habe,
So much.
die verlieren 100 Leute in 5 Minuten und ja, jetzt sind es wieder 400 weniger. Deswegen, also bringt ja nichts mehr.
So
Also,
we've actually got it as 2 videos.
Oh.
So there's the investigation in the test map, and what you're seeing here, in some respects, you might think that this is scripted, that this is something that we just put on a track. This is purely systemic. So if we captured this 20 different times, it would be 20. It would play out 20 different ways.
so those individual there is going away to hide behind that orangey boxy, whatever we want to call that
Yeah,
color.
so that's the player,
He's going to go.
essentially.
This is essentially a standard for the player. The other 2 AI are searching for him at the moment. The white spheres you see are basically hiding or cover spots. And so as AI, this is a sort of debug mode, as the AI goes around and they search, the spheres go away, indicating that, okay, they've checked that place, so no one's actually there hiding out in cover. So, and they're both kind of working together. So their logic is they need to clear these rooms first, and then once the rooms are cleared, they can sort of go on.
So they
from
share
there.
this information. So as they're clearing the cover points, and the cover points are basically all the nooks and crannies in the room, they're clearing the cover points and they're sharing together. So you'd see here that they're going, okay, this guy's coming in and go, okay, there's an open vent. Again, this is systemic. He's just coming to investigate this vent, but he's not cleared this entire room yet, so he's not going to progress. And he's just going to go and check the rest of the room alongside his buddy. And once they've then cleared it, they'll then progress. But again, here would be, you know, you'd hear them.
Solanum, alles klar. Gute Nacht dir.
And again, if that, we've got vents in here.
Und habicht
Yeah, so
dir auch eine gute Nacht.
Usable, so it might be, you know, something you can hide in, or they're going through systemically checking the usables.
Ja,
checking
ich
the
denke
cover
dann,
points. There's only a few balls left.
morgen wird es definitiv dann wieder
And then the ones at the back that he's clearing.
interessanter. Wir schauen mal. Wir werden morgen dann im Stream noch ein bisschen die neuen Helme suchen, dass die dann auch wirklich dann jeder hat.
He's gonna go this way.
Und danke für dein Follow. Schön, dass du da bist.
Left.
Aaron Kaldas.
He's going to come through here.
Willkommen bei uns.
Cleared those, so now he's going around.
Ja, genau. Wie gesagt, wir werden morgen mal nochmal kräftig auf Helmsuche gehen. Suchen die Helme und zwar so, wenn es sein muss, dass dann nicht nur jeder den einmal im Inventar hatte, sondern dass wir genügend finden, dass man auch die Helme bis zum Reset, bis zur 3.18 auch dann hat und dann auch bis dorthin nutzen kann, wenn man will, und nicht erst danach.
But we'll have audio and visual representation for those levels. So
Denn da du hast nicht mehr gefunden, okay?
head turn, maybe a verbal cue. Then you're getting into the yellow and amber. That's where they're turning to face the noise and going, I think I'm going to go check it out.
Also ich habe heute,
You know, maybe they'll walk over there to investigate. Or if there's two of them,
nee, ich habe heute
one of them
gar
goes,
nichts
"Okay, you go
geguckt.
check it out." And then he goes and checks it out. And then we have obviously the red where it's like,
Wir müssen mal gucken. Also normalerweise, also das wäre ja echt schlimm, wenn das Ganze nur irgendwie 2 Tage lief. Also wie gesagt, das war ja am Donnerstag und gestern, und wenn es heute schon wieder vorbei wäre, das wäre
our game, what they do is they go to a threatened state.
wäre schlimm.
Threatened state, they'll still do their social
Und mein,
activities.
das ist, wie gesagt, ich hatte ja auch alle,
So as soon as they see
die habe ich dann ja Caro gegeben zum Weitergeben.
it makes a difference that if you've gone
Aber
loud at the
gut,
start,
Glenda, du hast einen gefunden
you
heute.
can't just go, oh no, they'll forget about me.
Weil wenn du einen gefunden hast,
Be the case in the P as it is in Squadron.
genau, in Extreme sagt also wie gesagt, es wäre Ding. Gut, natürlich, klar, da es ja jetzt das Wochenende ist und alle Leute jetzt wissen, dass es diese Helme zu looten gibt, wird man wahrscheinlich oder werden massenweise diesen Helm suchen. Und deswegen werden wir uns auch morgen dann dementsprechend Zeit nehmen.
So we wanted to show you
Und auch, wenn es sein muss, mit mehreren Leuten über eine längere Zeit suchen, dass dann auch wirklich, wie gesagt, der Letzte,
and then, you know, in
der Letzte diese Helme noch bekommt.
if we actually failed because they pincered the player.
Also wie gesagt, wir werden morgen Ding. Außerdem machen wir natürlich morgen morgen auch noch wie immer ein bisschen Quests-Missionen oder sonst irgendwas und schauen, was wir sonst noch dann anstellen können. Und natürlich, wenn der Buggy heute noch live geht, was er auf jeden Fall soll, werden wir morgen den Buggy noch austesten. Weil, wie gesagt, ich werde mir den wirklich zu 100% holen.
You may not be able to see them, but you're going to know they're out there looking for you. And if you stay in the same place for too long, they will find you.
Yeah, so you can see the one in the background is actually looking over one of the
Der Schuh, ja, es sind 3 Helme, die es gibt.
railings, should I say, and then I think the Ross who captured all these videos. I think he takes a bit of revenge.
And
Und
again,
gucken wir da jetzt mal kurz noch zu wieder.
It's systemic. They understand all the hiding places. This is their station. They understand the hiding places. They understand where to look, and they just go through.
Yeah, so you can drop these enemies in any environment, and they will play out like this. But obviously, the choices that they make at runtime will be different. And this is where we have to make sure that the AI that we're working on even though we're working on it in Squadron, it has to work for the entirety of Star Citizen in all the different environments, in all the different scenarios that you're put in. So it's a major improvement.
So that's hiding from the AI, but let's look at some of the combat tactics
Sure.
now.
Naja, das ist alles irgendwie alles nichts Ausschlaggebendes oder Interessantes.
So again, what you're seeing here is in a test map. We wanted to kind of show you a bird's eye view. So we've just turned God mode on so you can see it. And you can see the labels here. So we've got the defenders that kind of push to cover points. Then we've got the pusher who's kind of pushing towards you. And then we've got the strafer who is kind of like taking more of a wider angle. Now, there are some similarities between all the behaviors, but it depends on what happens. So whether they go to cover, you know, a pusher, for example, can still go from cover to cover. A defender can still go to cover. So it's not like you've got these binary choices. It's about weighting the different choices throughout the behavior so that the AI provides something different, but also applies pressure to you as a player so that you're having to react to the AI. You know, right now, our current AI, you basically get the jump on them and you can just take them all out. But in reality, what we want is we want you to react to the AI because they're pushing you and challenging you.
Also mit den Versicherungen muss ich sagen, also mit den Versicherungen, da habe ich mich irgendwie bisher noch nie irgendwie groß drum gekümmert, weil einfach ich keine Ahnung, ob das wirklich so ausschlaggebend ist, was ich nicht glaube, ob das Ding 3, 6 Monate hat, 10 Jahre oder Lifetime, also im Endeffekt ist es egal wahrscheinlich, weil Versicherungen kann man auch in-game abschließen und ein gekauftes Schiff wird niemals dann weg sein, weil es kaputt ist und ich keine Versicherung hat oder so. Also das kann ja nicht sein. Ja gut, klar, bei den größeren Schiffen, klar, wird es schon teurer sein, aber immer noch so, dass man es ja bezahlen kann. Und wie gesagt, selbst bei den größeren Schiffen ist es einfach, wenn man keine Versicherung hat und das Schiff gut geht, dann kannst du nicht weg sein. Ich habe es ja gegen Echtgeld gekauft. Sowas darf man ja nicht wegnehmen. Und selbst wenn es dann irgendwas ist, dass ich dann Ewigkeiten brauche zum Claimen oder mir dann extra noch eine Versicherung kaufen muss, bevor ich es wieder bekomme, ist alles gut, kann man alles machen dann. Deswegen muss ich sagen, habe ich mich dann jetzt bisher darüber eigentlich noch gar nicht gekümmert. Ja, Xanto, genau, natürlich, klar, wenn man es bekommt, nehme ich es natürlich auch mit. Das heißt, wenn ich jetzt mir ein Schiff hole und das Ding hat LTI oder 10 Jahre, klar, dann wird es auf jeden Fall mitgenommen. Nee. Ja, okay, Nachtfalle, klar, natürlich, ich spende dafür, stimmt. Da hast du recht, trotzdem dürfen sie mir das Schiff nicht wegnehmen. Also das würde so eine Shitstorm-Welle und Klagewelle gegen Star Citizen laufen, wenn die sowas machen würden. Dann es würde nie gut gehen. Und deswegen, also egal, wie gesagt, ob man das als Spende macht oder egal, wie gesagt, das geht nicht.
So if you look at the physical attributes, what we have, essentially we're going to have a skill system that you can go, and the way that you play the game will dictate how you level up these particular skills. So if you're constantly carrying boxes, you know, you may get stronger, so you can actually lift stronger things. But getting stronger doesn't just allow you to lift heavier boxes, but it also means that your equip load that you can carry in your inventory is higher. That weight doesn't affect you as much, so you can sprint further because it's not affecting your stamina as much. You know, your force reactions, you're more resistant to that because you're stronger in yourself. Agility in terms of like weapon swapping or going to ADS. We have endurance, so that's, for example, like how resistant you are to the environment. If you look at, say, Navy SEAL training or SES training in Britain, essentially, you know, they have cold weather training. They have, you can survive in harsher climates. You can go longer without sustenance. And then that's what essentially endurance gives you. And also, for example, like G-force and readout, so that pilots train for that so they can actually modulate their breathing so they're actually able to sustain higher Gs than a normal person would be. And then you have fitness. So fitness, for example, you can have a higher stamina. So when we have swimming, you can swim longer, you can hold your breath longer, you can sprint longer. So we have these physical attributes, and we have multiple different ways for how you improve them. And those physical attributes will denote how effective you are at certain things in the game. So, and that will come to obviously for flying as well as in FPS. But we're not going to be removing any of the skill elements. So there's nothing that we're going in there going, oh, you've got 10% more damage.
Ja, die Tare. Wie gesagt, da gibt's bestimmt viele Möglichkeiten. Aber im Endeffekt, zum Schluss ist es immer noch da.
So, like I said, how fast you can sprint or how far you can sprint. All of those different things that are tied into your physical attributes.
Well, it's like real life, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, like, you've got to spend some time if you want to increase your strength. Yes, you could naturally be born strong, but if you go to the gym and you start lifting weights, I can do whatever. I can like bench press 100 pounds. Now I can do 120. Now I can do 140. Now I can do 160. Now I can do 180, right? Well, you couldn't do 180 right from the beginning. You had to work the same if you're like running, you work your way up to a marathon. And so
Tequila, ja, das kenne ich. Das kenne ich. Das war bei Herr der Ringe damals auch so. Herr der Ringe hat von seinem ersten zum zweiten oder zum dritten Publisher gewechselt. Und da musste man auch seinen Account transferieren. Und da hat man ein Jahr Zeit, damals glaube ich, oder knapp über einem Jahr. Und wer das da bis dahin nicht gemacht hat, da war der Account dann auch weg.
Then you can do that if that's something that makes sense for what your character is going to be. I mean, in Squadron's one thing, but in the PU, I'm a cargo hauler. I probably don't really need to be all buff and everything because I'm sitting there in the cab of my Caterpillar hauling a bunch of cargo. But if I want to be a bounty hunter, maybe I want to invest some time. So if I'm in a foot race trying to take someone down, I can outrun him.
Oh, Tequila, ja, okay, das tut natürlich weh. Das tut weh.
Skilling up your character because that's the dedicated area of focus that you want. You can run further than them. You can carry things, that are heavier than.
Aber macht ja nichts draus. Wie gesagt, bei Herr der Ringe damals ich konnte meinen Account rechtzeitig sichern, da ich ja dauerhaft gespielt habe zu der Zeit, aber meine Frau hat auch ihren verloren, ihren alten. Aber zwar, glaube nur 300 oder 400 Euro, aber trotzdem.
So takedowns is a good example. So the first time you do a takedown, that's going to be quite sloppy. It's going to take quite a long time. You might struggle and eventually you take them down and it's like, oh, okay, the guy over there heard me. It's not very good. And after a certain amount of time that you
ja, Nachfrage. Wie gesagt, ich weiß es nicht, deswegen.
You'll get better. So then they'll change different animations.
Wie gesagt.
So now you'll unlock a different animation where it's
Kann natürlich sein, wie gesagt.
Yeah, very looking forward to doing all the versions of Takedown from sloppy to super killer pro.
Yeah, and at the end ones it'd be like, straight.
Aber andersrum, wie gesagt, wer weiß, vielleicht bis es soweit ist, ob ich dann überhaupt noch Star Citizen spielen kann oder ob ich dann eher padderisch im Bett liege oder auf dem Pencil-Sizzle hock.
We'll have the same for like, melee, like fist fighting,
combat,
or knife fighting. Longer term, we want to sort of, this is more PU, not Squadron, but
So, ich sehe gerade, die labern ja immer noch. Sie labern immer noch. Das ist der Wahnsinn. Das ist der Wahnsinn.
Again, this is going to be a really huge, deep world, and it's sort of up to you how you want to essentially build your character.
Was mich aber auch wundert, die sitzen jetzt seit 2 Stunden da und quatschen und keiner hat irgendwie was zu trinken oder sonst irgendwas griffbereit. Ich glaube, ich wäre schon
Have a pint of beer
verdurstet.
before they
Oder hätte so einen trockenen Mund,
kind of race a
dass ich
Formula
nicht
One
mehr
and play
quatschen
a football
könnte.
match.
Absolutely. So that's what it gives you. It gives us that ability for you to specialize your character in areas that if you really enjoy FPS, then you can push it that. If all you care about is
Da habe ich jetzt gar nicht drauf geachtet. Das könnte durchaus aber sein. Stimmt, der hat ja vorhin schon die Tasse mal weggestellt und da hat sie relativ leicht ausgesehen.
more Gs. So, you know, if that guy was going to black out, I'm not going to black out because I'm going to be able to do it. And it's those slight 1% differences that allow you to put some effort in to do. And that you will be able to level them as you just play the game organically. So you're not going to have to go out and level them, you know, like Chris said, squats. If you do squats, like that's the equivalent of us going from crouch to stand, essentially.
Just
Like, you will allow you to do things like that.
Naja, kommt drauf an, wie interessant das ist. Oh, das ist der interessante Gesichtsausdruck.
Capitalize area, microtech, and garbage
Well,
makes a lot.
we went all the info, and then the other thing that we're going to do, which will tie into the last thing you're going to talk about, is the way that you'll sort of track this is the same way as I've got an Apple Watch on here, and I can have my health app that will tell me kind of how unfit I am, right? Or how fit I am. Unfortunately, at the moment, it's mostly unfit.
Genau, schon die Augen zu.
But, that will be essentially one of the apps in the Mobi Glass, and then one of the last, things that we were going to talk about as far as some of the stuff we're doing in Squadron is, there's a complete
Oh Mann, oh Mann.
review of the Mobi Glass, and the first iteration is in Squadron. There's a sort of cut down set of apps in Squadron because it's the military Mobi Glass, and you don't need all the cargo trading and all that kind of stuff that you would want in the PU. But it's a framework that we're building almost like our own
operating
Mobi OS.
system, yeah.
And it's all in building blocks, so all Flash stuff's gone away. It's been built to be extensible. There's been some tech and thought into how it looks and rendered, which is much nicer and transitions much better before.
Ja, genau.
Between the
So
modes.
viel gelabert während den Sitzungen, dass die Leute keine Zeit mehr haben zu programmieren. Da werden die Mitarbeiter zusammengerufen zum kurzen Briefing. Und das kurze Briefing dauert 7,5 Stunden und dann wird noch eine halbe Stunde Mittagspause gemacht und dann ist Feierabend.
Here's the ship chat channel.
The ship WhatsApp.
Yeah, the ship WhatsApp basically, obviously your nav map, star map, and all that will be in there.
And Galactopedia.
The Galactopedia, so you can look up, and then in the PU, it's going to just get expanded and maybe potentially have a slight UI difference to be not the military version, but be the civilian version. But it will all go in the same framework using the same base work. So one of the things that we've been really trying, not just on the Mobi, but on the HUDs and the MFDs, is they're all using a common building block framework, and we're trying to share the same base code stuff so it's easier to support and maintain. Because one of the problems right now in the PU is because there's a hodgepodge of the old system, which is the old sort of Flash scale form system, and the new building blocks, it's really hard to extend stuff right now, and so one of the big obstacles to doing.
Könnte natürlich noch einen weiteren Grund geben, warum sie nicht aufhören, weil sie nicht mehr aufstehen können, weil sie die übergeschlagenen Beine nicht mehr auseinanderbringen.
And make it easier, so then in the PU, extending things will be easier and simpler. Yeah, I don't know if you want to say anything more on the Mobi Glass.
Well, I'd roll the clip that we have, and we can.
Let's roll the Mobi Glass. Let's take a look.
Oh, nochmal was.
So the first page that you'll see that's coming up right now, kind of like the overview. So it's the overview of your player, it's the overview of your ship, and then it's like your primary objective. So and all of these widgets that we call them are kind of shortcuts to the kind of the main focus areas.
See alerts as you go to the other page.
So you can see here we've got your messages. So this is kind of like the email client, and then on the right we've got kind of like the ship chat that's coming in with general chip chat from the AI, which again is kind of just making it believe that you're in this believable environment or a real life environment rather than just you alone.
So responsive compared to the old one.
Yeah, and it's just a lot. It's a lot cleaner, and you know, the information. It's something that we've tried to be consistent across the HUD and the Mobi, is that we want to make sure that we're giving you clean information.
And you can see like the alerts. So the alerts now cleared from the messaging app because we've read the messages, so it's gone. But there was an alert down on our mission side here, but now we've gone and looked at it. It's cleared. So that's the system. It's a framework. So like inside the, you know, you'll get, you know, notifications or alerts. Oh, look, I got a new message over here. I'll click over to it. Now we're back.
And the biggest thing as well is when you, it's like in everyday life.
Okay, da muss ich jetzt sagen, das war jetzt doch mal wieder ein bisschen interessanter, weil
Google Chrome or
das Mobiglas so ist oder in die Art und Weise mit Nachrichten und alles,
when we come to things like the Mobiglas,
wo auch angezeigt werden, dass es da und da neue Nachrichten gibt und alles, das sieht natürlich cool aus.
And it comes back to really the original message that we started this talk with. We want to make
Jetzt
sure
noch ein Einblick dann in die neue Star Map.
removing the barrier to the entry, removing the complexity so that you can enjoy the stuff that you want to do, enjoy, that you want to go and do. You want to go and do missions. You want to go and, you know, get equipment or find rare loot or join up with your friends. And I think a lot of the things when we look at this, where you go from player interaction experience to improve traversal, to improve HUD, star map, Mobi is a combination of that, where we want to provide all this different information, but we want to provide it in a way that you're familiar with, that you can go and go, we don't need to reinvent how you read emails, you know, or we don't need to reinvent how you understand a mission, or, you know, and you want to have the information on your Mobi. Like,
Irgendjemand letzte Zeit nochmal im Shop geguckt, ob der Buggy da ist.
Do I need a helmet? Is it hot? Is it cold? You know, you look at an Apple Watch, or my wife has an Apple Watch, so she's got a Fitbit, and it's like, okay, this is your heart rate, and this is your oxygen. You know, you need to have that information at your fingertips.
Aber so wie es aussieht,
I can now
immer noch
plan
nicht.
for what I'm about to do. And coming back to what Chris said earlier in terms of, you know, you're not just going to be all wearing heavy armor going into the ships, and you might not have an EVA pack, and you've got to, you know, you've got to decide what you need to take out with you on specific missions. It comes back to bringing all these things.
Alarus, das kommt im November.
Experience playing the game, and then you start
Am November ist die Expo wieder. Und da gibt es wieder alle Schiffe, die man sich dann auch in-game ausleihen kann und testen kann, jeweils für 48 Stunden.
Putting it all together, which is kind of, we're seeing that glimpse in Squadron 42, because we're able to focus on that experience, not just individual features. You know, we're starting to not just see it, we're playing it. And I think that's what's really exciting to look at, to show you the progress that we're showing here today, is that nothing we've talked about is like, oh, we're going to start this in 6 months, or we're going to do this in 2 years, or we're going to do that. A lot of it we've already done, and we're in the position where we can go in there and play it and understand it and go, okay, let's tweak this, and let's start building on top of it of systems that we're really, you know, confident in, technically and from a design point of view, so that we can build on top. And we've got a very clear idea how they can scale in Star Citizen, because we've got the mini environment of Squadron and like the test bed of proving it out. And I think it's going to be a real benefit to the PU for when we push these features over, because also for the developers who are just specifically PU content, they've got an example of how to use these systems, and they understand how you know, other developers have already gone through the mix of putting it into the game, and now they go, cool, there's documentation, I know how to go to it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a big thing, because, you know, as building the feature with the content, okay, you're doing the, you know, some of the traversal stuff we talked about.
Und die nächste Grenze der Zuschauerzahl unterschritten.
To make an interesting game experience. And that means that the PU team that's now going, oh,
Geht irgendwie abwärts alles. Also das ist jetzt ja.
Rather than here's a feature, you figure it out, because again, that was a lot of things that went in were that, you know, it's like trolleys, as we use an example, or the mounted guns are just features that didn't really have gameplay or use associated with them. So, you know, I mean, there's a lot more going on in Squadron than just this, but we thought...
Yeah, this is just a snapshot.
Ja, Moritz, dann, wie gesagt, dir auch eine gute Nacht. Und ich persönlich würde auch sagen, war schön, war super, aber wie gesagt, ich denke, dass das hier auch für uns nichts Neues mehr gibt,
Squadron is
was bringt, wo wir drüber erzählen können. Und wie gesagt,
That was
ich bin.
our version of a short conversation about Squadron 42 and the benefits to the persistent
Ah, okay.
before we let you go and get on to wrapping up our full day of activities, Chris, any final words you want to share with the Star Citizen
Okay.
community about
Schlussworte. Also,
Squadron 42, it's the co-development,
man muss gerade was
projects,
dazu
and how
sagen.
it'll affect Star Citizen? What do you got?
Well, I mean, I'd say that it's incredibly challenging trying to have develop two games side by side, also while you're building the tech as well, and it's also incredibly rewarding. I have to say that the feedback, especially on the PU side that we see all the time, really helps inform as developers what we're doing all the time, and it informs what we do on the Squadron 42 side too, in terms of some of the base mechanics, some of the areas that we go, okay, well, we want to work on this thing and improve it. It's all the stuff we've really talked about this time. But for me, it's an incredible privilege to be building something of the level of ambition that we're doing on both Squadron but also Star Citizen, because ultimately I think that Star Citizen itself, in terms of an experience, in terms of how you can seamlessly go from sitting inside your ship, looking at your interior here, look at this constellation Phoenix, and walking outside onto a planet and looking at the foliage and the trees and seeing a mountain in the distance and walking over and being able to actually go there rather than it just be a background that you can never reach. The scope and scale, the sense of being able to go anywhere, do anything, that is something that most game engines and games generally just can't do and don't do. They're limited to more limited spaces, and we're utilizing in Squadron to give you a sort of single player experience that sort of feels like you're in a huge play environment and system that you traverse around. I mean, we talked about the various types of quantum travel you're using and all the different down to the detail mechanics of picking up something off a desk and moving it over, and being able to build a system that can do that for the detail and fidelity that we're telling a really rich story in Squadron, but also a huge universe that you can exist in as a sandbox for everyone to play it, is a complete, I mean, from a developer's standpoint, it's a dream. I mean, it's a dream I've had my whole life. Being able to do it because we're supported by the community out there is something I'm always eternally grateful for, and it's the best job in the world. So as much as it can be difficult sometimes, as much as it can be frustrating when you see everyone bitching about something, or something's not working, or what kind of idiot did this, or which doesn't this person know how to run a project, and all the rest of the stuff, it's still the best job in the world.
So you've read the feedback.
Dieser Gesichtsausdruck von Jared Huckabee ist unbezahlbar.
But you need a thick skin. I mean, at the end of the day, you have a vision in your mind, and we're lucky enough to be able to really fulfill that. I mean, it's a bit of a Pandora's box that got opened when we realized we had the level of support to really go all the way, because it's a completely different scope of game now than 10 years ago when I got on stage and I was pitching a much more limited, sort of privateer.
Mariko, da hast du recht. Ist echt ein cooler Typ.
What we're building now is a completely different experience in terms of a lot more just fidelity and scope and possibility in the idea that you can do and be anything in it, and if you can think it or imagine it or see it, you can go there, do it, do all those things. That is, like I said, I think there's almost nobody out there in the industry that has.
Aber andersrum, was wäre das Ganze hier ohne Jared Huckabee? Wäre, keine Ahnung.
So, like I said, it's hard work. No one slacks off. We're working really hard. We all wish we were doing stuff quicker and faster than we end up doing it, but it's not because we're just sitting here, eating bonbons. We are working really hard. and it's exciting. I mean, for me, I look at things we have in development and how far we've come. How far the game itself, even Star Citizen. I mean, this year there's more people playing it. There's more, spending more time in the game than there was last year, than the year before. I mean, we're accelerating. I think that's partly a testimony.
Aber stimmt, da stimme ich dir zu.
Few years has become more stable. It's become more performant. There's been more features and content added. So even though we still have a lot of things to go, and we talked about a lot of things we want to improve, it's more of a, yes, it's rough around the edges, but there is something there that keeps people coming back despite the frustrations, right? And I think it's that sense of you being able to go and do anything and be anything in the universe, and we're really committed to.
Die sollten das Ganze umbenennen von Schlusswort in Schlussroman.
A really great experience that's frictionless. So while it is challenging doing these two games together, it's also a hell of a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward over the next few years, because we got a whole bunch of really cool stuff coming down the pike beyond what we already have here. That it's a good time to be making games.
It is a lot of fun. It's I think video games, strangely, video games get this reputation of because it's hard work, because it's so difficult. It's like it's a job and it's a pain and whatever. But no, video games are fun. They're creative. They're expansive. They're collaborative. They're definitely iterative. And there's nothing else like it. No other industry in the world would have a weekly behind the scenes documentary series that I now get to do from a spaceship landed on one of Pyro's planets. Rich, you want to try to follow that?
So the only one thing I would say is that even though we are focused on Squadron 42, we still read all of the feedback in Spectrum, online, the comments or Reddit. So a lot of that feedback that's been come to the game over the years, we've taken that.
Darf der Nächste noch ein Schlusswort geben? Und dann kommt noch Jared. Der gibt dann auch noch ein Schlusswort.
People's minds, such as like the interaction system and how you interface with the game and controls and the action queuing and traversal. And I think the biggest takeaway for me when we start to look at all these features is that don't think of it as feature. The biggest thing is that we're starting to put that game together and we can sit down and play it. And while Star Citizen, there already is a game there, this is about, making what's there even better and making sure that all the things that new players and existing players have had frustrations with, that we're smoothing them over and removing the friction. And then about injecting that new features on top that's going to just enhance it even further. So I think it's, in the next few years, it's going to be really exciting times. As Chris said, there's lots of things in the pipe. And I think some of the things that come online will be real game changers to not necessarily what you do, because that's going to be delivered by the content and the features and ships, but how you do it and how you interface with the game. And I think that's going to be a huge improvement. And I think that will, I think if you're a developer, it's something that's really important, because you've got to make sure that your game is, if they're not talking about that aspect of the game, then you've done it right. And I think that's where we're getting close on at least on Squadron 42, so that we can then map that over to the game.
And then, of course, the only thing I want to add is that everything you've seen here today is work in progress. We've removed some of the locations and aspects where you've seen them to protect for spoilers and story elements of the game. But all this stuff is coming to the persistent universe at one point. The stuff we've been able to show you, the stuff we haven't been able to show you today. And if you were surprised by the skills part in particular, like we just kind of snuck that in there before the Mobiglass, rest assured we will be following up on the skills conversation with visuals and a more in-depth discussion of how that'll work and how you'll interact with that and stuff as we get closer to being able to do so. So if you've already gone to Spectrum or Reddit or your YouTube thumbnail and added little red laser eyes to Richard Tyrer, that last part's okay, but everything else, we just ask that you hang tight and give us the benefit of the doubt. It'll be fine. So yeah, so thank you, Chris. Thank you, Rich, for taking the time to talk a little bit of Squadron 42 with us and how it'll affect the PU. We are just about to wrap up our entire CitizenCon day here. But before we do, I want to throw it back to a video that we opened today's show with. It was a bunch of our developers and staff at our 5 studios around the world talking about their favorite things of the Star Citizen community. So we'd like to play that for you one more time. And when we come back, we'll put this whole baby to bed. So take a look.
Tell you what my favorite thing about the community is?
What am I gonna say?
It's gonna sound cliche, but
They believe as much as we do.
I love them because they continue to support us.
It's the only thing that's kept me going.
I've seen a lot of games and I've seen a lot of invested players, but
They're right there with us throughout the whole process.
It's unlike anything I've ever worked on.
The thing I really like the most about the community is how welcoming they are.
To new players entering the verse for the
Taro,
first
ja.
time.
New
Lass
players
uns
come every
loslegen.
day, and I find that
They're always happy to show people the ropes.
So, genau. Wir raiden rüber zu Shaggas. Der ist auch noch ein Star Citizen und ich denke, der ist ja auch noch dabei. Den besuchen wir noch und ansonsten, wie gesagt, sehen wir uns dann morgen um 18 Uhr wieder. Da geht es wieder in Star Citizen. Da bin ich dann wieder im Spiel und dann, ja, schauen wir mal, was wir anstellen. Wie gesagt, einmal, wie heißt's? Einmal die Helme suchen und einmal Missionen oder sonst irgendwas. Da lassen wir uns überraschen, was so morgen noch auf uns zukommt. Und ansonsten sage ich dann, es war mir eine Ehre, es war mir ein langer Tag und bis morgen. Und dann drückt drauf, wir raiden rüber.
my favorite thing about the community